What was talking about? Here's Kelsey Mitchell, flips it to Howard, who lays it in.
The Indiana Fever's journey this season has been anything but straightforward. Entering the year, all eyes were firmly fixed on Caitlin Clark, the undeniable face of the 2024 draft class, the highest-profile rookie to enter the WNBA in over a decade, and a media sensation whose presence alone changed the economic, cultural, and competitive landscape of the league. Expectations were sky-high, and rightly so. Clark had set records during her college career at Iowa that made her not just a prospect but a phenomenon. Her three-point range, her court vision, her ability to create instant offensive rethink pointed to a revolutionary rookie campaign. But as every seasoned basketball fan knows, professional basketball doesn't follow scripts written by hype. It's chaotic, relentless, and often unforgiving. Caitlin Clark, for all her brilliance, was no exception. Her rookie season was sprinkled with stunning highlights but marred by avoidable mistakes. By the time the regular season neared its halfway point, she had already set a WNBA record, one she would rather not own, for most turnovers by a rookie in league history. With 223 turnovers, the number wasn't just a stat, it was a flashing, red light signaling growing pains. Indiana's offense frequently stalled as Clark struggled to adjust to the speed and physicality of WNBA defenses. Sophomore slumps are typically reserved for a second-year player, but in her case, the adjustment came fast and hard. Despite her flashy passes and deep shooting range, Clark's turnover rate began to drag down Indiana's rhythm. In fact, she accounted for nearly 40% of the team's 9 turnovers per game, a stat that couldn't be ignored. One glaring example came during Indiana's narrow loss to the Las Vegas Aces, 89-81. With the score tied at 69 apiece, Clark's next few possessions resulted in erratic decisions that allowed the Aces to pull away and close out the game with minimal resistance. Those sloppy plays didn't just cost them a win. They shattered the team's confidence in crunch time and exposed how much they leaned on their star rookie to control pace, manage pressure, and set the tone. Following that stretch, Indiana spiraled into a string of missed opportunities, and many began questioning whether this team was too dependent on one player regardless of how talented she was. Then came the groin injury. Caitlin Clark, nursing a right groin strain, was ruled out for multiple games, initially seen as a major blow to Indiana's playoff hopes. For a team built around a single star, losing her could have signaled a collapse. Instead, something unexpected happened. What looked like a setback quickly transformed into a turning point. The ball started to move better. Offensive sets ran smoother. Players who once hesitated now looked more assertive. The burden of playmaking no longer fell entirely on Clark, and with that, others began to rise. Indiana rattled off 5 straight wins without Caitlin Clark, culminating in a thrilling 78-74 victory over the Seattle Storm. That win wasn't just another notch in the standings, it was a statement. One that reverberated throughout the league. For the first time since the legendary Tamika Catchings era, this team had won 5 games in a row without their superstar, showing resilience, poise, and most importantly, balance. The last time Indiana had a streak like this was back between August 27th and September 5th, 2024, an era marked by its own set of stars and expectations. This time, the Fever did it with a young core, under pressure, and without their floor general. And in the post-game presser, head coach Stephanie White didn't mince words. She was asked about the team's surprising success during Clark's absence. Her response: just 3 words, blessing in disguise. That phrase alone sent a subtle warning to the rest of the WNBA. It was more than a coach offering a silver lining. It was a confirmation of something deeper happening within the organization. White went on to elaborate, saying, "While we don't like it, sometimes it can be a blessing in disguise because everybody else finds themselves right." And she's not wrong. Clark's absence forced Indiana's supporting cast to stop looking to the perimeter every possession and start trusting themselves. Kelsey Mitchell became more than a shooter, she became a closer. Ari McDonald's role expanded, her quickness and on-ball defense making immediate impacts. Aaliyah Boston, the reigning Rookie of the Year before Clark's arrival, resumed her dominance in the post, this time with more freedom and spacing. Natasha Howard provided veteran presence and critical shot-making, and even Sophie Cunningham, often a streaky contributor, began showing consistency and confidence. Together, they weren't just holding the line without Clark, they were thriving. In that Seattle game, the Fever built a 12-point lead with just under 5 minutes to play, but in true WNBA fashion, nothing came easy. Seattle stormed back, slicing the lead to just 1 in the final minute. That's when Kelsey Mitchell calmly sank a mid-range jumper that pushed the lead to 3. As the Storm missed 6 of their final 7 shots, Indiana's composure held firm. Aaliyah Boston closed it out with clutch free throws with just 2 seconds remaining, sealing a gritty win built on team execution and trust, not star power. And this is the heart of the transformation. Earlier in the season, Indiana would collapse under this kind of pressure. Second-half leads routinely turned into heartbreak. In June and July, they lost multiple winnable games in the fourth quarter. Unable to find that extra push to finish, the narrative then was clear. This was a team that could start strong but not finish. That narrative is now shifting. With Clark out, the team has learned how to manage pace, take smarter shots, and defend with urgency in the closing minutes. The growing pains from earlier in the season are now the fertilizer for their recent bloom. What does this mean when Caitlin Clark returns? That's where things get truly interesting. The version of the Fever that dominated the headlines in May and early June is not the same team walking into August. They've grown tactically, emotionally, and competitively. This version doesn't just rely on Clark to break traps or hit logo threes. This version has 5 players who can initiate offense. This version has a bench that can contribute meaningful minutes. So when Clark steps back onto the court, she's not returning to the team she left. She's joining one that has discovered how to function without her, and that is a nightmare scenario for opposing teams. Even Sophie Cunningham addressed it. She was blunt, saying, "I don't think Caitlin's absence affects us anymore. We know how to play with her. If we don't have Caitlin, great, we know how to play without her." That statement wasn't made in defiance, it was made in confidence. A month ago, this team felt like Clark plus pieces. Now, it feels like a real unit with or without her. That doesn't take anything away from Clark's impact. When healthy, she remains one of the most dynamic playmakers in basketball. But it redefines what Indiana is. Not a one-woman show, but a playoff threat capable of adjusting, competing, and closing games regardless of who's in the lineup. Stephanie White deserves immense credit for this shift. Coaching in the WNBA isn't just about X's and O's, it's about managing egos, rotations, and expectations, all while navigating relentless schedules and travel. White has done all of this while reshaping her team's identity on the fly. She's trusted her young players in high-stress situations, and they've responded. In doing so, she's laid the groundwork for not just short-term success, but long-term stability. The message she sent with her 3 words, blessing in disguise, just about this stretch. It was about building a team that knows how to fight without its star, so that when the star returns, they fight even harder together. And fans have noticed. Attendance is up. Viewership is climbing. People aren't just tuning in to see Caitlin Clark anymore. They're watching for the Fever. They're watching because something real is happening in Indiana. The locker room is tighter. The play on the court is cleaner. The belief is louder. That matters. Caitlin Clark will return soon, and when she does, she'll walk into a team that has figured out its identity without her. That allows her to reintegrate with less pressure and more purpose. Instead of being the only source of creativity, she becomes one of many. That's a recipe for chaos for opponents. Because a well-rested, refocused Clark surrounded by confident teammates might just be the scariest version of Indiana yet. The Fever aren't just surviving without her, they're becoming. So the question now isn't just whether Indiana can keep winning without Clark. It's what happens when they add her back into this evolved system. It's whether the chemistry built in her absence accelerates the playoff run. It's whether the league realizes that the Caitlin Clark show was only the beginning of a much bigger story unfolding in Indiana. One that involves growth, grit, and a growing sense that something special is happening, something that might last well beyond one player, one season, or one streak. The Fever sent their warning. They did it without fireworks. They did it without their headliner. They did it with defense, team-first basketball, and clutch execution. And if you've been paying attention, you heard it loud and clear. You heard it loud and clear. It wasn't long ago that the Indiana Fever were synonymous with inconsistency. Promising starts, sharp ball movement, energetic bursts followed, too often by late collapses, scoring droughts, and unforced errors. There were games where they looked like a playoff-bound squad. But then, without warning, a double-digit lead would melt away, leaving behind nothing but frustration. A 13-point cushion against Golden State turned into an 11-point loss.